Hi guys and welcome back to another week of TFW. The green screen is up, I got my laptop, the camera is on, so let's get going. This, of course, is a show based on all of your footballing opinions. First off, Peter McGarry has really hit the ground running in this episode. Juventus are the most overrated team in the world. Wow, they signed big name players that still can't win the Champions League. Now, I wouldn't say they're the most overrated team in the world. That's quite a lot. Like, yes, they're dominating Serie A, maybe in lack of competition apart from this season, but they're still a very, very good side, Juventus. I mean, they got to the Champions League final a few times this decade, and of course they couldn't win it. But saying they spent all this name on big money players and couldn't win it, that's literally what every team did. Now, let's take a look at the last 6 years, right, of Champions League winners. Liverpool, who spent big money, right? Yeah, well, they did spend big money. They spent big money and won the Champions League. Barcelona did the same in 2014, and Real Madrid didn't actually spend a huge amount of money, but won it the 4 other seasons in the last 6 years. That means that every single year for the last 6 seasons, PSG spent money, not won the Champions League. Manchester City spent money, not won the Champions League. Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Juventus. Spurs actually spent quite a lot of money before that brief period where they didn't. Still got to a Champions League final. I mean, there's Manchester United as well. There's so many teams who have spent the money and haven't won because only one team can win the Champions League. Like, I get when you spend a lot, like, maybe you could say they're a little bit overrated, but actually, no. I think that's very harsh. Like, the big teams sign big players and only one team can win in the end. And I think that there'll probably be more disappointed teams to not have won the Champions League. Of course, Juve are disappointed, like PSG, who spent a phenomenal amount of money on, the two big names and still haven't won it. Saïd has said, why are Barcelona destroying the careers of great players like Coutinho and Griezmann? Destroying is just brutal. Do you think now players will think twice before joining Barca? No. I actually made a video on this like a year ago, I think. Quite a long while ago, talking about Mesut Ozil and why he doesn't necessarily fit in, not only to Arsenal's football, but into football at all. And I think Griezmann and Coutinho definitely fit into this category. They may be a kind of player where their style just does not suit the team that they're playing in. Like, it's not to say they're not talented. They have this footballing ability. Once signing a contract and playing for a team, it's not like they're just completely rubbish. I'm not going to say Barcelona are destroying their careers, but maybe they just don't fit in so well. Like, there is no way that when Philippe Coutinho, right, was having that brilliant season with Liverpool and then that good few months before he joined Barca, so what was that, January 2018, there is no one who had said Coutinho isn't a Barcelona player. There is no one who'd be like, yeah, Coutinho, definitely wrong for Barca's style of football. He's a quick, nimble, agile attacking player with brilliant passing, shooting, incredible skills, can drift around in many attacking areas. He was like the perfect fit for Barca. Obviously, he's gone there, things haven't quite worked out, but I think it's no fault of Barca's like destroying someone's career. I mean, the next one is a perfect example. Joel Williams, thanks for your comment, Joel, said, I think if Lamar leaves Atletico, he'll turn back into the class player he was at Monaco. Perfect example. Thomas Lamar's a really good player, hasn't worked out at Atleti, probably because it's not quite his style of football. Like, in quite a rigid 4-4-2 formation, he's not necessarily a left winger, he's like a left midfielder, playing quite narrow as the other side. Like, I believe it's Koke on the other side of right midfield, is like a wide central midfielder. He drops back into the wing-back role, plays quite narrow. That's not really Lamar's game. He's probably better as a left winger. He'd actually probably do better at Barca. So yeah, I think it's definitely to do with the club. It's harsh to say they've destroyed their careers. Maybe things haven't quite worked out, but yeah. I mean, you can see from flashes at Bayern Munich, Coutinho, for example, still a brilliant player. 10 Babs, next up. Considering the fact Dortmund always buy and groom great talent but aren't ever able to keep players or win titles, well, okay, will they ever be an actual big club, or will they end up as a Southampton or Monaco of the Bundesliga? First off, Monaco almost got relegated and are in a bit of a mess because they keep rehiring, I believe it's Jardim. Southampton are like mid-table in the Premier League, and Dortmund are pushing Bayern Munich for the title every single season. And they're doing well, but you can't always blame them for the fact they're in a league with an absolute superpower like Bayern. They buy and groom great talent, but aren't able to keep players. I mean, I guess, and we spoke about this last week, I think, in the Q&A with myself and Angelina, which you can watch right here. There's just a handful of clubs who will always be bigger. That's just kind of the way it goes. Like, we spoke about Timo Werner, especially at RB Leipzig. If Leipzig were to win the title, or to win the Champions League somehow, Timo Werner wouldn't be like, I'm at the Champions of Europe. I can't go any higher. I might as well stick with the club. He'd still leave to Bayern Munich. Right? The perfect example was Paul Pogba leaving Juventus when he went to Manchester United, who were in the Europa League. Like Paul Pogba literally went from like Champions League finals with Juve to the Europa League with United, because United are still a big team. When you leave these clubs like Dortmund, when you're at Dortmund, there's still bigger clubs to go to, regardless of winning titles or anything like that. So I don't think they'll always be able to hold on to players. But to certainly say they're a small club is ridiculous. I mean, they had a brilliant win over PSG. Fair enough, they lost in the second leg of the Champions League. They're always up there fighting for the Bundesliga title and are probably 1 or 2 players away from winning it. If Bayern have a poor season, then they can capitalise. Yeah, I think that's maybe a little bit harsh. Pasha the Great, I'm a Chelsea fan. I believe that Chelsea's top 3 priorities in the summer should be Moussa Dembele, Alex Telles and Jadon Sancho. Again, Moussa Dembele could be a really good signing for Chelsea, but neither him nor Tammy Abraham want to sit on the bench. So I think it would be a good signing, but it would bring along some difficulties as well. Alex Telles definitely is rejected a new contract at Porto. Marcus Alonso looks pretty much past it. I would think is Emerson the other one still at Chelsea? I would definitely say Alex Telles would be a good signing. Jadon Sancho would go against everything that Lampard's doing with youngsters. Again, he'd really hamper the careers of the other attacking midfielders like Mount, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi. He'd be a good signing, I just can't see Chelsea going for it. Telles is probably the most believable. Kumal Ali said, if the Champions League resumes after the coronavirus outbreak, whenever that may be, of course, which teams in the Champions League would benefit the most? This is actually a really interesting question. And some part of me thinks that maybe teams could be like, oh, this is kind of unfair, even though it's not. But like Barcelona, for example, if Luis Suarez is fit again, whenever this returns, that's massive for them, and Ousmane Dembele. Fati's a brilliant wonder kid, but to put all the pressure on him is difficult. Griezmann, as we mentioned, hasn't been in the greatest of form. Messi's still doing messy things. But bringing back Dembele and Suarez is huge. That's absolutely massive for Barcelona if they're to go through. Obviously, they had the 1-1 draw against Napoli. You would put them probably odds on to go through at home against the Italian side. G55 has actually come in with a really good point, saying if Real Madrid can get past City, remember they're 2-1 down and they're going to the Etihad, they'll be favourites, along with Bayern Munich and Barcelona, to win the Champions League. With Hazard back in the side, seeing how vital he is in the new system in previous matches, they can benefit from the break. Again, same thing. Hazard's massive signing. He hasn't necessarily produced at Real Madrid this season, but unbelievable player. And if he's to come back to Real Madrid fully fit, right, and he could definitely help them. I mean, looking elsewhere, I'm trying to think of a few players. Again, if Laporte's back fit for Manchester City, that's massive. If Gareth Bale is fighting fit for Real Madrid, that's pretty big. I mean, there are definitely players to come back from injury. So, back to Kumo. Which teams would benefit the most? I'm going to go ahead and say Barca. I think Suarez and Dembele are massive, bringing back 2 quality forwards. Douglas next up said Sterling will be making a good decision to stay at City if a big name team like Real Madrid come in with an offer, because A, there isn't much competition at City, so Sterling gets plenty of playing time. I don't know. Depends if Leroy Sané stays. Because Sané and Silva, don't get me wrong, I think Sterling starts. I think he's one of City's best players. But to say there's not competition, he's not a shoo-in. Like, if Sterling's poor in form, Guardiola will drop him and will bring in somebody else. B, he could learn a lot more from Guardiola than Zidane. He's learnt a lot from Guardiola for sure. The Sterling that signed from Liverpool is completely different to the Sterling we see now. Guardiola has added so much to Raheem Sterling's game for sure. He could learn a lot from Zinedine Zidane too, though. More maybe from Guardiola, but he's already learnt a lot now. I mean, 6 one, half dozen the other. I think he'll learn from both. I think he'd be great at Real Madrid, actually, Sterling, as well. But yeah, I mean, if he stays at City, he'd definitely still be their star guy. It's not going to get any better for Sterling. Like, he's at the ceiling at Manchester City where he is, like, their best player, second best player, in my opinion. So any signing isn't going to knock Sterling down, and they wouldn't be looking to sign someone in Sterling's position if they've still got him. Next up, Fix Your Grammar. Great YouTube name. Inter will win the Champions League in the next few years. Conte has the team challenging for titles again, and they'll be real contenders. I really like what Antonio Conte's done in terms of like identifying players to fill in weak spots that Inter have got. Whether or not this is enough to take them to a Champions League title, I think is a massive ask. I think we've seen teams that can prosper from a certain style of play and do really well, and maybe Conte has the Italian league figured out after all the success he achieved with Juventus. Taking that into the Champions League is a completely different matter. That is a big, big ask. They'll have to go, and there's no disrespect because they've done well, like I say, in Serie A. They'll have to go from signing Sanchez, Moses and Ashley Young to signing big name players for the big games who are going to win them competitions. I'm not saying those guys are bad. I'm just not quite sure they're at the level of other players that that are fighting and pushing their teams through to the latter stages of the Champions League. Last but not least, Gareth De Silva says Spurs will panic via Danny Ings. They probably will, but I mean, he's one of the best English scorers this season. In fact, he might be second behind Jamie Vardy in terms of English goal scorers. Going to be worse than what Spurs are doing now. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on everything from today's TFW in the comment section below. Once again, thanks so much for all of your opinions. Every Sunday night in the YouTube community tab is where you can find the post asking for all of your opinions. As I mentioned before, let me know your thoughts. Check on the screen to check out all the other stuff we've got going on Onefootball. And until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys soon.